What's up guys, it's JBlongz, and in this video I'm going to address one of the most questions I get in my emails: how to design your own sounds in Omnisphere. So we'll jump right into that now. In some cases you may have a multi-loaded where you have all parts or more than one part loaded, so you would go to utility and initialize multi. In this case I'm only using the first part, so I'm going to initialize patch. And once you initialize patch, you're giving a blank canvas to build from. So in this canvas, we can begin to add the elements of our sound. So each part in Omnisphere gives you access to two layers, your A layer and your B layer. So in these layers, you have the option to load a synth, waveform, or a sample sound source. So for this case, we're going to choose a synth waveform for this first part. I'll choose something in the retro area. Clear keys sounds interesting. So we'll take the sound and try to develop something out of it. And for now, I'm just going to play with some of the common knobs like the shape. Something like the symmetry. And the hard sync. I like that sound so far. Let's add a filter to this. So we'll turn the filter module on and we'll pick some type of filter. Maybe I'll go with the specialty format, give it some type of vowel type of. Add some resonance. Now that sounds a little bit interesting. So let's add some movement. I liked what I was hearing when I moved these sliders here. So I'm gonna right click that and add an LFO. And I'm gonna add that LFO to a sync of about maybe a quarter note, half note. Lower the depth a little bit, which is the range. All right, so now I'll add a similar modulation to the symmetry, another envelope, the LFO rather. So I'll adjust the rate and the depth of this effect. If you don't know, the rate affects how many times it repeats, and the depth affects the range at which it repeats. So it's pretty much the distance it'll run in between its minimum and maximum setting. All right, so for this second LFO, I think I will add a sync of about a quarter note and raise the depth. All right, now I will take the depth and I will modulate that with the mod wheel, so I can choose when that comes in. And I'll bring the depth down initially. You can hear it come and go as I use the wheel. So moving on, kind of quickly finish this layer. I'm going to add some distortion. Maybe the flame distortion would be nice. Now I think I want to apply the same LFO. So I want to see, I'll use LFO2 for the filter here. So I have a tempo synced filter change that I can call anytime I use the mod wheel because I assigned the mod wheel to LFO2. So moving on, what I'm going to do now is mute this part A by clicking that light under A, this layer A, and I will activate layer B. And in layer B, we're going to choose an actual sampled sound source. So I'll look for something that's pretty unique. Let's see what we have here. The Altoids detuner. So let's take this patch and see how we can move it into a new space. So what I noticed is that I moved this this effect is in the wrong place. So I'm gonna deactivate that and pull that same effect up on just A itself. So I'll modulate it again to an existing source, LFO2. Add the gain up a little bit. Let's make sure we're hearing it right. So back to layer B. And I wanted to add some effects to the B layer, particularly a retro flanger. All right, and what else can we use here? Maybe the retroplex delay. Bring down the feedback a little bit. Maybe increase the amount of flutter. And bring down this vary speed to maybe about 5.5%, close to that. So now let's add this to the layer 1. And then with the mod wheel, so something we have here to work with. Maybe add some compression to it on the common, which affects both layer A and B, as you heard before. You always have an option to add an auxiliary effect. And the auxiliary effect will be in parallel to the master effect of A, B, and the common. Okay, so so these are really the basics to creating your sound. Choosing your sources, understanding how you want to play with the shape and symmetry of your synth waveforms, or the attack, the start, the timbre of your sampled waveforms, and then applying the effects to your individual layers, your common layers, and your auxiliary parallel effects. Of course, you have other options such as arpeggiation, your orb settings if you want real-time manipulation of your sound, and also you have options for scale, clock speed, and different type of parameters to further your expansion. There are tons of envelopes for your filters, for your amplitude, and for your modulation sources. There are tons of options for your filters. And once you've gone through all of these and played around and got to understand how you can use them, the next thing you'll want to do is save your sound. So saving your sound is pretty straightforward in Omnisphere. You go right to the utility, and if you have a multi where you have multiple parts that you've built into one and you want to save as one multi-patch, then you can do that. And in this case, we're just going to save patch. All right, so we're going to save patch as. And here inside the Finder, or if you're on Windows, it would be your Explorer window, you can choose where you save it. So I save typically in a user folder, and I create several different folders based on what I need. So in this case, you'll see something like JBlongz tweaks. So these are actually sounds that existed already in Omnisphere. And I just tweaked them, added some things, kind of changed it around. Maybe the sound won't even sound like the original, but I create a JBlongz tweak folder just to know the difference between something that I took from a already developed source as opposed to something that I created from scratch. So in this case, I'll create a new folder and I'll call this JBlongz test, which is just for you guys. So in here, I'll name this something like Altoid Crew. All right. And here you get this window where you can choose some attributes for your file. You can link it to your own website. You can add some keywords so they're easy to search, and you create some notes on, maybe give the listener or the musician an idea of how you develop the sound. So in this case, I'm going to go by author, and you'll see JBlongz here. I may create a complexity meter. This sound isn't really that complex, so I'd say maybe low complexity. And these are attributes that you don't have to choose. I could say version. So for someone who's an Omnisphere 1 user, hasn't upgraded yet, you might want to let them know this requires Omnisphere 2 library. So you go through all these things, and maybe I'll add a link for now. I'll add some keywords: pop, synth, Altoid, demo for you guys. And then I'll save. And that's pretty much it. I just created a patch in Omnisphere from scratch. Now, there are a bunch of videos on the Spectrasonics website that explain to you how to take advantage of the envelope features for amp, filter, and modulation sources, how to understand the modulation matrix, how to get the best sound out of your oscillators between FM synthesis, ring modulation, wave shaper, unison, harmonizer, and also granular synthesis, how to become more advanced with your filters, and also how to use your own audio as a sound source. I will leave a link to these video resources in the description. This is JBlongz signing out.